Hi guys, welcome back to another video. We recently got a soundbar, but we didn't want to leave the soundbar and the wires on the fireplace. So we had the idea to cut it out, wrap it in fabric, and make it look like a built-in speaker. Now in order for this idea to work, the frame had to be removable and the fabric that we used had to let the signal through. Now I recently watched a speaker grill DIY video. This is where the magnet concept came in. The magnets would not only provide a strong hold I was looking for, but also accessibility. Now one note here, you do have to run electrical to the fireplace in order for this to work. This is a relatively simple project to do, and I'll show you all the steps I went through coming up next. I'll show you guys how I put in these magnets into the board. Now the magnets were purchased from Amazon. I just found any size magnet works. Upside down. And they came in a set of 30 to 35. Now the size doesn't matter. We're just going to be drilling out the same size hole into our wood. And you can see I already did this on our face, on our connection piece. And we'll be doing the exact same on this piece. And this piece will actually mount to the fireplace, and we'll have the magnets on the opposite side, and I'll show you how we drill this piece to match that coming up. So what you want to do is you want to mark out your edges, take your square and draw a straight line. That will ensure that our magnets are perfectly lined up. Now we also want to make sure that the height of the magnet matches the other matching piece. So we also want to mark this out from center to center. And this goes for every single magnet. So in our case we have 3. We want to make sure that we're matching each height of the magnet and the center of it. And that way when we go to drill our holes, they're exactly opposite and we have a perfect mating face. Now it's very important you match the size of your magnet to the size of your hole. So you can take your magnet and butt it up against your drill. Just ensure that it's perfectly smooth and it's not too small or too big. Now you can go slightly smaller with the drill and then force your magnet in just to ensure there's a tight finish. But what I did with these is I actually added a little bit of super glue to the back and then I pressed them in with a hammer. You can also add a little bit of piece of tape, just painter's tape, just to ensure that you're not drilling too far into the board, and that will be a preventative stop to going all the way through. So you can kind of gauge the thickness of the magnet and then put a little piece of tape there so you know when to stop. And if you have Gorilla Glue, you can definitely use it. You can put some in the holes and then use your magnet and put it in and just tap it in with a hammer. So in my case this is a scrap piece, so I won't be putting glue, but definitely recommended that you put in just a dab of glue. And then very important, you take one magnet and you put on your test piece. Now you don't want to mix these up. You don't want to glue it the other way around. That way you'll have this side resisting the other side. So one way to test is just lay your pieces out, put your magnets in, and now you know that these backings have to back into here. So take it, flip it, and then stick it on the hole. And with your hammer, you can just slightly tap it in place. Now they are magnetic, so it takes a while. Pro tip, switch to a rubber mallet. You'll have a lot easier time hammering these into place. And there you go. It's one. There's two. Flip it 180 degrees and hammer it in place. And once the glue sets, you'll know you'll have a perfect matching set. There you go. And that's what we want. We want this end to be connected and magnetized so that it holds it in place. So now that you have both sides complete, you want to do the exact same thing to the other side. And this piece will actually go into the fireplace, and then this piece will connect and will float on top. And that's what we want. We'll be covering this in fabric, and I'll show you that next. So when it came time to picking materials, we had a couple different options. Now we went to our local fabric store, and I grabbed a couple samples that I could work with. Now you can see they're a little bit different. Each one is thinner and thicker and different colors. Now the most important part is you want to test these before you staple it onto your cut piece. Now the reason is some of this, the RF lets the signal through, and if it's too thick, like which we found out in this case, this is almost like a jean-like material. Very nice color, very nice texture, but the remote did not let the signal through to the soundbar. So this one, beautiful material, but we could not use it for wrapping this. So the fabric store actually sells them in minimum 6 inches, which was perfect for us because we needed about 3.5 inches to wrap this in. So we narrowed it down to 3 different colors and 3 different samples. We tested each one, and we're actually going to be tiling the fireplace in something that's close to this color. So this ended up being the winner. We're actually going to cut this down to size and then staple it onto here, and I'll show you that next. Now we're actually going to be stapling it with a pneumatic stapler. I have 3/8 inch staples, and you can see here that they are smaller than the piece of wood that we're going to be stapling into it. So here's the 22 gauge 3/8 inch staplers that we're going to be using. What we want to do, we're going to staple them, obviously avoid the magnets, so we'll try to staple around the edges and all the way down the piece of wood. As we wrap it, we'll keep it tight, we'll flip it over, and then we'll see how it looks. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do is staple the top first and then work on my corners. Obviously never done this before, first time, but we'll try it out and then we'll see what happens. So I'm trying to keep my staples around 2 inches from each other. There's quite a bit of kickback on this little piece of plate, but so far so good. I'm trying to fold it so that there are no creases, and at the same time trying to keep it tight. Now one thing I didn't mention was these cutouts. They're just to give it a little bit more support. I found that when I was cutting these, if I left this long run, this would flex a bit, and at the same time my speakers are in between these two holes, so it's not going to get in the way of the sound from the speaker and provide a little bit of support. So I am going to cut the excess away. I just need enough to wrap it around the corner, which is around there, hopefully. There we go. I can even go a little bit more. once I wrap it, it'll be nice and tight. The corner, I'll try to experiment with it. I haven't done it before, so maybe we'll tuck it in the corner first. I obviously don't want to bunch it up too much in the corner because it still has to slide into the cutout that we cut out from the fireplace. So I'll play with this a little bit and see what I can do with the corner. Okay, so what I decided to do after an hour of debating is throw in a staple on the corner and then try to tuck it in and try to get another staple somewhere around here. So we'll see how that goes. We'll go from there. There's one. So we'll see how that works. I'll throw in a couple more staples and then see if I can get rid of this as well. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Try to throw in a staple here and then tuck it in and over. Just got to be careful because your magnets want to try to grab your scissors. And we'll try to clean this up a little bit. Obviously we want to get rid of that bulk, so this will sit flush. Now for the last side, I got a couple clamps because I do have excess material here. So I just wanted to pull it over as tight as possible and clamp this material in just to help me out. Then you can flip it over and see if you do like it or it needs to be pulled tighter. So in some areas we'll need to pull it tighter while we staple. So clamp is my third hand, but I think it's kind of what we want, but a little bit tighter just to get rid of some of those ripples. So now I'm going to continue stapling the bottom piece. I'm just going to stretch it over as tight as possible and then continue down stretching it. Now I did add more staples to the top. It looks a little bit better. There's less ripples at the top, so I'll be adding a lot more staples to the bottom. So now I'm going to move my clamp further down just to make sure I get a nice tight hold. Again, just keep doing that all the way down. And every now and then you want to just turn it over. Make sure that there's no ripples. Keep pulling it tight. Thin sections, make sure you know where the edge is before you staple. Obviously you don't want it to come through. So there's the whole piece. We'll have to go back and cut the excess off right now. So I had a slight change of plans. I ended up stapling it on the sides and removed some of the staples from the back side. It was just too bulky and I don't think it would sit well with the magnets on the other side. So I ended up putting one on top here and 4 on the other side as well. So here's what the piece looks like overall. And the back. Now I might end up cutting some of this off depending on how it fits into the fireplace. But you can see I added a lot more staples on the back just to help with the hold. In order for the soundbar to sit level inside the fireplace, I had to make a 4-inch shelf. I accomplished that by mounting scrap wood level with the frame in 3 different areas. I also made these small feet for the soundbar. This would accomplish 2 things. 1, elevate it high enough to pass the frame, and 2, point it slightly down so that it hits the listener. So to get our cutout, I actually drew lines on top and bottom that were equally spaced. And it's roughly 2 inches from the top and 2 inches from the bottom. I got my level, I drew a straight line, and I cut all this out. Now the plan was to cut it straight so that I didn't need to put a piece of trim in. But when I came in with the multi-tool, you can see there's a little bit of waviness to it. So we're actually going to correct that issue by adding a little piece of trim that's going to cover up the waviness and at the same time still look like it's part of the fireplace. So now that we have everything stapled and in place, we're going to actually install this trim on top. Now, the original intention was just to cut this out straight, put the material on, and that would have worked, but you can see some of the cuts did not come out so straight just because I used a multi-tool. And the solution to that was make a small frame, and then we'll actually staple that like that, and then have some overlap as well on the edges, and that should hide the wavy cuts. So we'll line this up, make sure there's equal overlap on the ends, and then we'll actually pin nail this down and we should be ready to install it. So we'll actually be using in 23 gauge 3/4 inch pin nails, and the intention is to catch both the trim and the MDF maybe at an angle so that it does not penetrate to the other side. Now if it does penetrate, it's not the worst. We still have some room and some gap there, but the intention will be try to catch it on an angle, or maybe do it on the inside and have that trim secure to our piece. Okay, now that we spaced it all the way around and I like the way it looks, we're actually going to throw in 2 nails into the side and then we'll do that same on the other side. So what we want to do is try to catch the corner. Now,
be mindful of where the magnets are placed and try to miss those as well. So there's one. And there's two.
That's got a good hold there, and we'll do the same thing on the other side.
The edge as well. And there's one. And there's two.
And then we'll end up filling that with DAP. So there we go. So we got two ends secure, and then we'll throw in a couple more nails here in the center just to keep it from coming up. So now that we're done with the stapling, we're actually going to take a little bit of Dridex. This stuff is my favorite to cover up nail holes. So we're going to take a little bit of this. Now we did have a little bit of the corners crack from the stress and the pressure I put on it. So we'll fill it again with Dridex and then repaint it. And then it should be good to go. So now that the DAP is dry, I threw on a little bit of painter's tape on the material. I just don't want any paint to get on it. I'll try my best to avoid the edges, but I do want to cover up those DAP holes. So we'll throw one more coat on here before we install it. Well, there you have it, guys. There's the finished product. I think it looks fantastic. The grill comes on and off really easy. The remote works perfectly fine with the fabric. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you would have done anything differently. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.